Is there a doctor in the house?
Doctor, you have a visitor in the main lobby.
Hello and welcome to today's Talk to the Doc podcast, the show that's here just for you. That's right, just for you. I'm your host, Steve the Dr. Meek, and the doctor is in. I'll be helping you through this particular visit with a great topic around customer service, something we all need, every organization has, hopefully. And customer service has been kind of the frontline heartbeat of business. But in 2025, it's more than just answering the phone with us. It's about trust, speed, loyalty, all these things in an age when one bad experience can send a customer running to a competitor. Today, I have with me Jose Duarte. He's here from Coldwell Banker Commercial, and we have a great show for you. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for hosting me, Steve. It's a pleasure to join you.
And before we get started, do you want to give me just a quick rundown on your bio? Why should everybody be listening to you about customer service?
Yeah, no, thank you. Great question. Well, I'm in North Dallas, Texas. We've been here since 2006. And what brought me to North Texas is my previous employer. Great company in and out. It was 14 years that I was able to collaborate with this company. And it really emphasized the experience, not just customer service, not just, a paycheck, not really just doing the things that we're taught, not selling, definitely not only selling. We definitely incorporate that, but it was definitely about the experience. So learned a lot, developed teams while I was there. I was developed as this was happening, and it was a fantastic environment where we were allowed to make certain mistakes, but for the right reason. It was definitely to grow and develop other leaders. So we were able to participate in a leadership program, and it taught me so many lessons that I see to this day, even as a commercial broker. It's applicable in multiple facets of our lives. So definitely creating the experience and relying on a team is definitely going to make your life easier, but you got to be able to do that with a purpose. So we've been here in North Texas now, like I mentioned, with Coldwell Banker Commercial. I still get to use those elements of what we learned through the years. I have my wife of almost 20 years, two kids, teenagers. So one senior, one freshman in high school. So definitely keeping us busy and still learn through the dynamics of being a father and a husband, and able to share what we do here in our community. I'm also just started to participate in Leadership McKinney, which was a process in itself.
Good for you.
Thank you. And growing more on that about leadership. Happy to share some of that. And with our ministry, we are members of a national ministry for Spanish speakers in our church. And wife and I get definitely very involved. So we get to travel a little bit, get to know other communities, but we definitely do a lot of service, not only in our local parish, but beyond our community. And a nonprofit, Allegiance of Elite Young Leadership, also here in our hometown, McKinney, and as a chair of their board. And we get to participate on various needs they have, food drives, testing, you name it. There's a lot of needs communities. We get to see what's needed out there, but able to share some of what we've learned along the way.
Well, it's definitely a lot of experiences. The one opportunity to really get some great feedback is as a parent. Nobody tells you what your customer experience is like better than your kids. They're always willing to share when they think they need more or feel like you're not living up to your obligations. Or at least that was my experience being a parent. So hopefully it's as beneficial for you as it has been for me.
Absolutely, for sure. And obviously listening to our spouse, my spouse in this case, obviously we've known each other over the years, and we get to know each other, and we get to see when we're missing something. There's something beyond the words. It's not how we say it. It's not what we say, but how we say it. And it really, when we're able to focus on those little signs, definitely is where we can help each other even. And that happens everywhere.
Well, listening to your spouse, that sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't think it's anything I've ever done. I've been married 30 something years, so I
Good
may
for
have
you.
to check in with you on that to find out a little bit more about that. But before we do that, let's just kind of jump into the heart of this. Let's get
Sure.
into some metrics. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So talk to me a little bit about some of the metrics of, just business in general. When I think of things, I like to think of the pulse, kind of what's the industry heartbeat, what's good for you in the world of customer service. What do you take as the pulse being?
So it would definitely be either the acquisition cost of a new client or customer and versus your retention rate. I think we know and that it's much easier to do business with repeat clients and then the cost of getting new ones. There's obviously a relationship that you can build. There is obviously more that you can focus on with your repeat clientele. But this is where it gets interesting. I think all of us, we definitely are busy all the time, but we really want to be able to find what's either the niche or what is that ratio that we want to play with. How many client customers do we want to service in the percentage of our interactions? Are we servicing, the good old rule of thumb? Is it 80-20? Are we focusing 80% to with engagements that don't lead to anything? Or are we focusing the 20% of our contacts? Are we making or are creating more relationships and creating results for our business? So I think it's important, at least in my experience, is getting to know where you've been, where we currently are, and where we want to go, because that's going to take you to areas of your business and find out where we need to focus on a daily basis. Right now, for us, for instance, in real estate, it's obviously you hear many things in the news, but it is staying in touch with our clients, staying in touch with repeat clients, servicing new ones. And there's a lot of education that we need to do, especially in commercial real estate. There's many situations that could be avoided if you consult with a professional early on. So we try to share that with our clients, like what is it that is important to them, and listening to them tell us what, not only what is important, why, what's the big why, what's driving their decision, and determine if it's someone we can help now or in the near future. But definitely knowing what is that where you are in your business and with your team. If you are early or first adopter, if you're early in the stages of creating your company, where are you in the 5-10 year plan? That is going to help us determine where we want to focus on first. So
now, as far as the attrition aspect of things, I think that every organization out there is having, attrition, whether it's consolidation, via M&A, bankruptcy, change, whatever, organizations moving locations, whatever.
mm-hmm.
Are there a couple of things that you think are your, two golden nuggets for dealing with attrition or being proactive in dealing with attrition or potential attrition?
Yeah, I think you want to find out if by changing your value and your client base, are you going to drop off some of those clients, and what are you willing to give up? Because sometimes, any change is inevitable, and sometimes change is good, but in the very immediate future, we want to avoid it, and it's going to cost us. So we want to just also build that in. In real estate, we look at an asset and we want to look at vacancy rate. So we may have something that's performing really well, but it may be at 80%. But if we increase rents, you're going to lose some tenants. You're going to lose if you change the management company. You're going to lose perhaps some of the return on investment, but you look at it in the long term. So for any business, you do want to face the change with the expectation that there's going to be some point, there's going to be a cost in your bottom line, but in the long run, you also want to include that as well. So it's kind of a projection. Gotcha. So there's no immediate and short response. It's obviously change is painful, but it is in every business. I see it in many instances when it's planned out and carefully planned, it is for the better.
Gotcha. Let's go into the next statistic. I like to think about the heart rate. What performance things tell the story for you right now?
And are we on a team, on the market overall?
It's an open-ended question, whatever you think.
Okay. Well, I would say that in a team, if I'm working with a team, if I have the number of conversations that you have, are you finding yourself, you're repeating yourself over and over, then you may want to change the model of the communication. Find out if it's lack of motivation. If you're having in a week, you're repeating maybe the same message 3 times, probably you want to direct your focus on how are you communicating the message that may not be getting to your team, or they're not understanding it. Maybe we're not passionate enough. Maybe it is not the right time to introduce a new metric if we haven't mastered the previous. So it really is knowing where your team, if you depend on, and a lot of us depend on a lot of other professionals. So where are they? What is driving them? And if we find what is the message that they can take with them and do their job tremendously, then we want to continue that. But if it's multiple, if it's a group of about 10 to 15 people and even beyond, I mean, sometimes displaying what's important to you and directed to the mission and vision statements of your company, of your group. So for me, for instance, I have a great colleague of mine, also a CCIM designee. Both of us are CCIM, and we communicate on a weekly basis. And we don't really dig into how to do the business, but what motivates us, just to keep us focused and deliver our performance, continue to stay on point. If we talk to a client, it is a different conversation. If it is going to be with a lender, it's a different conversation. A contractor, a city official, definitely a different conversation. So it's important to know who we're talking to and deliver the message so that it is memorable and they're obviously engaged in ongoing relationship.
Now, are there any tips you suggest for making that message memorable?
Well, yeah. So I definitely like to ask beyond what's important to them. I like to definitely leave them with a question. How would you approach it? I like to listen from them. How engaged are they on the potential solution? And obviously that tells me how we can engage. If it's learning how to do the job, if it's learning or they just need a little bit of a support versus having to do a motivation reel for the company. I had to do that once and found out that it was someone who just, had a tough go a couple of months. So we just really had to step back and really assess what they needed at that moment. Sometimes putting it on them to for them to tell you what is it that can get them to the next step.
Do you have any beliefs on adding your own personal uniqueness into those conversations? Is there something you do that represents you that might be different than the next person?
I definitely, with that said, I definitely, I do that with my kids and I do that with some of the folks that I talk to most of the time, is what would you think I'm going to ask you if we're having to address perhaps a difficult conversation, maybe something didn't get done, something was forgotten, then I definitely like have them, I give them the opportunity to tell me, well, I think this is where I needed to deliver, or I needed to act a little more passionately, or so I don't need to necessarily say it. It is already an expectation. It's like, well, what do you think we're going to have to fix? So especially when it's not something all that great or positive, but whenever it's something positive, definitely like to use quotes. There's plenty of them out there, but I also like to give someone the opportunity to provide some quotes because it really puts them in a different mindset of contributing to that conversation so that it's not a download. Definitely
I really like the idea of asking somebody to put themselves in your shoes and then, give them the opportunity to be the hero in their own journey and tell you what they think they should be doing, as opposed to you coaching down to them and, hey, I really wanted you to do this. I really need you to do this. That's potentially changing as far as behaviors for how they deal with things in the future, make them their own coach as opposed to you having to be their coach.
Exactly. And that tells us essentially what style you're going to use. Do you need to lead by example? Do you need to be more of a hammer? Do you need to be just set clear expectations? Is it a performance or a motivation situation? So that helps you analyze that and determine how to approach a given task. If obviously when I have a potential client, I can determine it's where are they in their decision process? Are they definitely with conversations already with a design team, or they already tested the market in some way, and that tells me that they've already looked at doing something or taking the next step, and that tells me, okay, do we need to really have a conversation now with a city about what they do, or maybe with a lender, maybe with a contractor, because they cannot understand how they can get an empty space to work for them. So we've been able to get those different professionals involved to help someone to the next stage.
Sure. I think it's like that. I'm big on quotes too. And it's like that old saying, if the only tool you have is a hammer, then you're probably working too hard and you probably should stop off for tacos or something like that. I don't remember the exact quote, but I think the point of it is seeing things as they are and not getting limited by, what tools you think you've got in front of you.
Exactly.
But the last statistic that we have is weight. So what strategy kind of thing do you think leaders need to know about in regards to customer service? What should they be doing that they're not doing today?
Definitely lead by example is one that you got to, it's very important for someone to see that it is possible to do it.
What's something you do to lead by example?
I definitely do it first. For instance, if it's something with me in my world, professional world right now, I don't show someone how to do it. But for instance, if we need to make those calls to clients, and we have a way to share a room with our business partner, and hey, we need to get through some conversations, and there's some different levels of calls that we need to do. Those are sometimes they're not the easiest, but they need to get done. With our ministries, if we, for instance, right now we're working on expanding the ministry in a new location. So we go and have conversations with local leaders, and for them to see us in person instead of just a phone call or on the technology that we use now. It's wonderful, but I feel that those are always better in person. So having a conversation in person and leading by example, showing someone how something can be done, speaks volumes. So I think the early on in person is got to be the way to go.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. I think as times have evolved, it seems like in a post-COVID world, we see a lot more of that one and done effect. I think I saw statistics, something like 50% of clients leave after one bad experience. That can be an extremely difficult thing to manage when all it takes is one, but I think that puts the challenge on us to be better all around and be better at what we do and work our clients, whoever they may be.
Right. So one story that I was able to share recently is that why am I in real estate? And it was in a previous employment. It was a Saturday midday, and it was one of those moments where I had to show a little bit of leadership and lead by example. So here comes a couple, the husband with hands behind his back, looking at price points, and his wife a few steps behind on her iPhone. We introduce ourselves. His name is Don, and he goes on to tell me, "Oh, I'm just looking." Okay, and I ask him what type of television does he own, and we start just to break the ice, and we start talking about what he wanted to do, what he wanted to improve the sound quality of his television. Pretty standard. As we continued to have that conversation, he was looking at a price point or a product that was about $700. As we continued our engagement, I was using multiple tools to help me get them a little more comfortable. So I would, every now and then, I would turn to the team and I was just, okay, are you seeing this? Are you looking at this? What we're doing? Or what is it that's happening right now? Then I noticed that his wife made a comment about, oh, I conduct my iPhone to listen to music. To what I said, absolutely. It was at that moment I realized that she was the decision maker, not him, and started catering to her a little more. Fast forward, a couple of hours later, hour and a half, they walked away with about $6,000 worth of product, which now would probably translate to about $10,000. And they did not expect to make that purchase. They did not. They told me afterwards, just that's not what we wanted to do. And she tells me, Mia, Terry is her name, wonderful lady. She tells me, what, you've been doing this for a little while. I said, well, I like what I do. And that's when she said, have you thought about real estate? Little did I know she was a terrific real estate agent in the market. We started having those conversations. And here we are almost 14 years later. It's really a passion of mine, be able to interact get to know the other person. And that moment really allowed me to show what is it that we're able to do, engage during a basic engagement, get to know that other person and be able to provide excellence. So we can apply it everywhere. There's another exercise where, if we think about it, we're always selling. We are always trying to determine, what is it that we need to, we're not thinking that out loud, or constantly, we agree or not, we're always selling. Where do we want to go eat? Sometimes we have a preference. What am I going to wear? What am I going to show? Well, that's selling myself. If I want to convince my clients, well, we're selling an idea. My kids, when they tell me, oh, I don't feel like doing this because of this X, Y, or Z, well, they're actually selling. So the moment we realize that, the farther we could be along with what we need to do and just be okay with it. So selling it's a skill set that the better we become, the better we'll be, and it will just make things easier on a daily basis. So just, do an exercise in your home around where you are. You're always selling. So it is something very simple on a daily basis, but we do that all the time.
Yes, I have a similar belief. I believe that I'm always consulting. And by consulting, I mean I'm always taking in evidence or providing evidence. That, there's kind of got to be, in the world of technology, there's a handshake and a lot of things that happen, networking, cybersecurity, AI, there's a back and forth. And I always see what I do as consulting, that I'm always trying to take in evidence, build facts, understand what's going on, get the background, and I'm always trying to provide evidence. In your case, some of that evidence is, hey, I'm dressed nicely, I'm a professional. Hey, I've got background information. Hey, I know what I'm doing. Hey, I'm easy to work with. Hey, I'm going to be there when you need service, not just when you're buying. And so I do see some similarities between what you're talking about and kind of how I perceive what we do as well.
Exactly. And, for instance, in my world, and as you mentioned, we have to be able to interpret the data. Like if you're going to know more about the cybersecurity aspect of it, and you can obviously tell me more as to why it would be a good idea to obtain your services. For real estate, the question that always comes up is like, how's the market doing? Is it a good time to buy? Is it and it always is going to the pain, going back to we got to know where we are, where we've been, where we are, and where we want to go. For someone who's never done anything in commercial real estate, no, I wouldn't be presenting something that is going to be complicated. If it's a savvy investor, then we will talk about maybe something that will be a little more complicated, but it's not a blanket solution. So we got to know each other. We got to know where we are and where we're going to be. If I had a bad experience with cybersecurity services, then chances are I'm not going to be able to engage as otherwise. Like same thing with anybody that maybe had a bad experience with real estate. They probably won't be able to engage someone with a clear mind. So it's important to know what's happened in the past. Where is it? Again, where we are assessing ourselves. And what do we want to accomplish? We get all the questions about, we want to have an investment. We want to be able to make some money and have an investment. Well, always the question is, how long? 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. And it's going to be a different answer for everybody. We have folks that do get surprised when from the moment they purchase a property, land, to the point of them being able to open the doors on a business, it's about 3 to 4 year process, and they get surprised. Well, there's a lot that happens in between. So, if somebody doesn't have that timeline, we'll need to look at what's existing. Someone that does, they are thinking of making the move for their company, then we can talk about why it might be good for them to build. And even if it takes time, it is still the best solution for them. So everybody's going to have something a little different, and it is our opportunities to find why and how is it that we can help them with that. But yeah, it's listening. It's sometimes not how or what we say is how we say it, like I mentioned earlier. So a lot of times with my wife, we do definitely have that. It's not the always how the day was, it's how did she say that the day was. And sometimes she knows that when I say something, she interprets it in a certain way that like, I know what you mean. So it is an exercise, ongoing exercise. To me, it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a spouse, as a couple, I like to think of relationships a little bit like Fantasy Island. One
Yeah.
person gets to be Ricardo Montalban and kind of ask a whole bunch of stuff and steer and guide and those kinds of things. But it's kind of really up to the other party to tell you whether they had a good time on Fantasy Island.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Sorry, just showing how old I am.
I remember that show. Yeah.
So for organizations that are looking at customer service introspectively and trying to get better, how do you suggest let me think of a way to say this. Are you suggesting they look at things short term versus long term, or what are your recommendations there?
Good question. Yeah, I think it's very important to do a self-assessment as an organization. Where are they versus the market, right? Kind of do the SWOT analysis and determine what is the most important aspect of their business. And obviously in your world, I mean, things change constantly. So you have to be in the know of every new threat and how is that affecting your clients and how to address that, right? So you have to be very knowledgeable and have to be, I imagine just you got to be reading a lot of articles, a lot of data. And so as an organization, you want to know what is it that you need to do to provide your customers. And yes, you can look at it in the short term, but with the long term, what do you want to have a client for life? Do you want to have a client for the next 24 months? Maybe you're implementing something. Maybe you're implementing a tool. So maybe you want to have a client that it's here for this time period while you transition them to something different. So that will be important to know. And I think getting to know ourselves individually first, what are our strengths? Like, for instance, I can do my own taxes. I don't want to do my own taxes. It is, accounting. My hats off to all the accountants out there. It is not something that I enjoy doing. I know how to do them. I know what needs to happen, but I connect with someone who is able to do that and who thrives in that world. And I focus on my strengths, talking to people, getting to know them, ice breaking, building rapport. Obviously, we have to do market knowledge and relationship building. So we do that, right? Marketing. But I'm able to focus on my strengths. And let's not talk about weaknesses. Let's just say strengths, and then know who in my team has other strengths that I don't possess, and make them a bigger part of that process in the business, perhaps. So whenever I need someone who's even more excited when doing a presentation, well, then I know who to go to. If I need, many times when we have an inspection or a lender, sometimes we have to pair them with the client appropriately based on what we observe. So we need to know who our team is and what are the strengths so that we determine, hey, sometimes there was a moment when we were not doing well in something in our team while I was in my previous employer, and I needed to change that in the short term. I had like 3 months to change it. I didn't have a long time. It was not the best, but it needed to get done. So I hired someone who excelled in that aspect. Well, that created some animosity within the team. That didn't create the best environment, but that allowed me to go back to those folks in my team and say, I bet you this wasn't fun. Then why aren't we doing this already on our own? Why did we have to bring something from outside for us to do it right? We don't need to do that. But that fixed it right away. If I had more time to do it, then I would have enabled my own team. We would have done more exercises, more training. We could have done a little more of that. So it depends on where we are in our business. Do we need to do, if we already did leading by example and that doesn't work, and we need a faster response or a faster result, then we need to bring an external force, an external person, something to get the results done, right? So it's gonna be depending on that situations. But I wouldn't know how to do that if I didn't know myself and I didn't know my strengths and if I didn't know my team. And that's what allows us to determine which tool, which method to use.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like Sun Tzu. What is it? Know thyself, know the environment, and you'll be victorious in 1,000 battles, something
Right.
along those lines.
Right.
See, I play basketball all the time, and for me, it's a little bit different. We just say KYP, know your personnel, meaning know what your teammates can do and what they can't do so that you always put them in situations to be successful.
Exactly.
Or as I call it, always pass me the ball. But, that's just how I play.
Gotcha. There you go. Yeah.
Now, as far you mentioned a SWOT analysis or doing SWOT. Can you give me an example? Do you use a specific tool for doing your SWOT, or does SWOT mean something to you different than it means to other people? Tell me a little bit more about your SWOT analysis.
Yeah, no, it's very, very straightforward. It is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So going back to a couple of them I've done, it's really, for instance, I remember studying back in school the Hershey Corporation, and knowing what the strengths are. And a lot of companies face that right now. Right now, and in our industry, we're facing that. So we have tariffs, we have high interest rates, we have high cost of doing business. So there's a lot of threats, a lot of challenges that are ahead of us. But what's still, we can focus, so we can focus on all of that, or we can focus on what we do well. And obviously knowing what those threats are that are right around the corner. So definitely I like to do two first. I like to focus on strengths and opportunities before I do threats. So strengths and opportunities, knowing what I'm good at, knowing what I have, and then I can see, okay, what is it that I don't have and what I don't possess in skill sets that I need to be better at. And then I connect with professionals. So I do some more learning about it. Going back to the example of taxes, well, I had to really learn what certain rules are on my own. I didn't want to just have my accountant tell me, oh, you need to do this because this is just the way that needs to be done. I needed to really understand that, and obviously so for my own benefit. But for our market, we need to know what is it that those strengths are and our opportunities before we can take a look at those threats. And that will allow us to use the best tools that we have available. And that way we know if we got to use, if economy's, shaky, then do we invest? Do we invest in something in the long term, maybe more of a short term? All of those opportunities to do that SWOT analysis will help us then determine where do we want to focus on, a short term, medium term, long term. And is it only for me, for my team, for my family, for the business? Where is it? And then you can engage with your teammates, your family, as okay, this is what looking at what everything around us, this is where we need to go. This is where we would like to go. What are you getting the buy-in from others? It's at that point is very important. So you can do that yourself, SWOT analysis, get your right-hand person, your closest team, and knowing what that is. I always like the idea of having your mission and vision statement, and then whatever your team, other members of your team that are important to you in this decision process, write in what is it that they want to accomplish. Something visual, something big, have them sign it, have them put their name on it, have them write it on it. So when things get tough, hey, this was our vision. This is what we were going to work on. We're going to continue to push for this. We may adapt, change it a little bit, pivot, adjust to the market. We still want to accomplish this, whatever that target is, right? So that way you have everybody more focused on what needs to happen. So for instance, for us right now, there's a big conversation here in the house about my daughter is about to be 15, and in the Latino community, it's the tradition of the quinceañera. But we're also having a college age oldest ready to apply and do all of that, and they're going to need a vehicle. all of what a lot of folks obviously have gone through, right?
Sure.
Is nothing new. But so we have conversations as a family. Okay, where do we want to go? What is it that we want to accomplish? What did we say is important? Education. You want to go to college? What is it that you want to study? What is so everything we're deciding now, it's gonna affect that future, whether it's short term, medium term, long term. So do we continue to do this, or do we shift our mind, or do we focus on that? So it's pretty interesting to see them just, no, yeah, okay, we won't do that. So
No,
it's
I completely get it.
yeah. So how that happens in the workplace as well.
Well, I was just going back to my example before. I don't really ask my wife for advice because we just do what she says anyways. So we don't, there's a clarifying point to that, yeah, I don't have to ask her for advice because she just tells me what we're going to do anyways.
It's interesting. I heard a wonderful story as well from our local new mayor. And I asked him in the meeting we had if he could walk us through the moment of how he decided to run for mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And because he hadn't seen it in the cards in the past, he just, people told him he was ready, he should really go for it, but it wasn't a calling per se. So he didn't do it. But as more and more people came to him, hey, you should throw your name in the hat, you should really consider, I think you're ready. And then he obviously internalized it and went through that as well. The night before he made the decision, he basically had a conversation with his wife, who was already on board,
Mm-hmm.
but he wasn't completely sure yet. So he told us that on a Sunday morning, he woke up and turned to his wife and essentially said, so you think I should do it? He's like, you're ready. And it's up to you. You definitely, if you feel like doing it, go ahead and do it. But then he said to us, if she has said no, if she or if he had seen some hesitation on her response, he would not have done it.
Yeah.
So that's how strong the influence of our spouses sometimes, and how right they are. So yeah, just adding to what you mentioned there.
I think everyone needs a right-hand person, that secondary voice, that someone to
Yes.
quality check them, at home, at work. I think, even for myself, I think I mentioned to you earlier, we do a lot around artificial intelligence and AI. And in a lot of cases,
Yes.
AI has kind of been that secondary voice for me. I've programmed it well enough to where it knows me, it understands me, it's seen my past decisions, it's heard my past complaints, my arguments, it understands enough about me that sometimes I ask it questions and it'll be in my head clarify things that I wasn't quite sure on, or it just has that secondary voice that, when you've done it right, when it learns you well enough, when you use it often enough, that it can be that secondary voice for you and kind of help you through tough decisions, or thinking through your state of customer service and what you need to work on and what you need to improve or challenge or do more of.
Right. Right. Exactly.
One of the things I thought I heard you say earlier that I thought was very perceptive is, instead of focusing on something that might be a weakness of yours, from a customer service point of view, maybe reach out to a peer because that's a strength area for them, and invite them to kind of help you through that particular situation, to take advantage, worry less about your weakness and focus more on, hey, we've got other resources, so this could be a strength area for us.
I got a great story on that as well. So when
Okay.
we are meeting couples in our ministry, it's couples based, family based ministry. We get to meet with multiple groups. Sometimes it's going to be anywhere from just 5-6 couples to, gosh, it could be 50 couples. And we get to meet a lot of wonderful families, of wonderful couples. And my strength is not remembering their names. I continue to struggle with this. And my wife is amazing. My wife, she's a school teacher. She's a dyslexia specialist. She's amazing. I'm so blessed to have her in my life. So every other time, after a meeting, after I get together, a session, then it's like, okay, I describe the person, and she's like, okay, that was Rahul, or that was Kathy. She's like so good at that. I'm so envious. But whenever she starts asking, oh, remember the person so and so, I said, you realize who you're talking to? I'm not going to remember their names. So she's like, oh yeah, that's right. So we have that dynamic where we know that she's the one that's going to remember the name, and I'm going to remember the conversation. I'm going to remember what we said and how they say it, but the name, it's going to be her. So in that situation, yeah, exactly right. You just have to focus on your strengths and dive into them, trust them, live them fully, and just surround yourself with other folks that are going to make you better. If it's obviously a team environment, perfect. Everybody's going to be able to support. My colleague, she's wonderful. Ethics and integrity, it's absolutely amazing. We are able to collaborate with each other, and we always call each other every now and then. Hey, this is what I'm dealing with. I don't know if this sounds right. This working with this valuation or property. So it's good to have a person that you can rely on and have that honest opinion of what you're dealing with in every aspect, spiritual, professional, obviously family.
So let's unpack that a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit about, so what's, as a team lead, as a manager, you've built, you've got peers within your organization. Some people know less, some people know more, some people have strengths, some people have weaknesses. Where do you draw the line in individual development? Do you try to improve the weakness? Do you just keep trying to drive the strength? How do you raise your organization up higher, your team, make your team better if you completely ignore weaknesses or completely focus on strength? Where do you draw the line?
That's a very good question. So one of the amazing organizations that I have the privilege to be a part of, the CCIM Institute, it raises the bar for us professionals in the commercial real estate world. And when I connected and communicated, my colleague had been a CCIM designee even before we started working together. It told me that was certainly a different mindset, above and beyond what we're typically accustomed to. So definitely being involved in such organizations, it really raises yourself. There's no other option. It's just we have to be better at what we do. So whenever I have those conversations with someone from a development point of view, I suggest to be involved with an organization that, hey, you may want to consider. And it doesn't need to be the CCIM. It could be another. You want to be able to diversify your knowledge and the organizations that you interact with. In my opinion, it cannot be only about what we do daily or what we do in our professional lives. It's good to have to open our criteria and to do different things, to know what is it that we are able to put up with, if you will, and which one is not. But whenever we have in many times, it is our opportunity to give back. And this is frankly where our involvement with local nonprofits is not just to help, but to empower someone. They are able to do it. They may just need to be shown where the information is. And there's times when it's just, well, they don't see it. I mean, there's as much as we can do. We show them, we share the source, and obviously they gotta want it for themselves. But to me, in this case, it's been the CCIM. So once I saw she had the CCIM designation and I learned about it, I had to travel different parts of the country to accomplish what was needed, what was required for this designation, and be a CCIM member. It is something to strive for. And now I'm able to share with other professionals, hey, you may want to consider, go to one of the classes, one of the meetings, just get to know what it's about. And chances are it's going to help, because there's multiple level of classes. So even if they take the one or two, it's still going to make them better professionals in the long run.
I love the concept of peering, having peer associations, peer groups, peer whatever. I heard you say, through your certifying body, if you're a paraprofessional or a subject matter expert, knowledge worker, and there's a certifying body, get associated with them. If there's similar organizations, there may be peers you have in other organizations where you can kind of get a little bit of a different view. There may be other tribes or community-based kind of areas where you can ally yourself with like-minded people in different communities and still get value out of it. And, even in the nonprofit world, and the energy of giving back and the energy of helping somebody else, it can empower you and kind of a high tide lifts all boats, just kind of keep raising the bar for, for your community at large. I really love your energy and effort around those kinds of things.
Yeah, there's so many different organizations that are able to work with companies, small businesses to get involved. And when I did that the first time in leadership, in a leadership week in Boston, it was amazing. I mean, I kind of saw what we were doing, but it was really good to do the analysis after each exercise. It's well worth it for any business owner to either put themselves through a process, a leadership program of any kind, and to allow others to participate in a leadership process program. And inevitably, some of it is going to be about serving. Some of it is going to be about helping outside of our confinement of what we see of our world. One training my wife and I did in this ministry, we are talking about how to become leaders themselves to different couples. But once particular slide that we had up on the screen, it was about what is it that made it or talk to us in the ministry. Why are we still doing it? This is our 11th year involved in that, and obviously many blessings and many things. We grow as a couple, as a person first, and as a couple and as a family. But it is getting to know that moment that even as us being married, and it's our spouse, right? But it could be your brother, it could be your parents, it could be neighbors, it could be whoever you feel you're very close to, teammate at work, that we're able to take off my glasses, put their glasses on, or do without the glasses, and see exactly what they're seeing and understanding their point of view. And when we did that, my wife wears glasses, started wearing glasses about 2 years ago. So she gave me hers and I gave her my glasses. And I said, okay, go ahead and read this presentation. And I did the same. I just put the glasses on me. Almost the entire room started nodding. Like, okay, we get it. Yeah. So it's being able to remove our view of what we're facing and our being able to look at someone else's point of view. We may not agree, but at least just see it from the other person's point of view. It's huge. It's very impactful.
Yeah, the one caveat to that is make sure the person you're exchanging with doesn't have beer goggles on.
That's right.
That's a whole different story, right?
That's right.
Well, Jose, we kind of traversed a lot of different areas today. How do you feel?
I feel great. I think, this is certainly something that I'm passionate about and love sharing with other professionals like yourself. So thank you for putting this together. Really appreciate the opportunity. And, sometimes it's not enough hours in the day, but being able to share any nuggets, anything that would help others, it is really, really wonderful in connecting with like-minded professionals and even, learning as well from others. I look forward to seeing more of the content and getting to know some of the other folks that you may have on the show. Look, definitely excited about that.
Well, we're here. I'm the doctor, so I'm here to make you feel better when you leave. So hopefully afterwards you feel like you've got some good stuff out of it. But, as part of the after visit summary, I'm going to ask you to kind of roll it all up for me, put it in one big house, if you will. If there was one thing you would say would be your major takeaway that you want people to get from our conversation today, what would that be?
I would say that there's no blanket approach to life, to the business world, to anything we participate in. There's no blanket approach. There is a way to assess ourselves, the people around us, and know our strengths, because we know where we come from. Each of us have a story. Each of us have a past. And we know where we are right now, being able to assess where we are. And with all of that information, we can point to our future and work towards it. But we have to know what our strengths. I cannot tell you that I'm going to be able to run a marathon tomorrow, but I certainly will be able to run a 5K. But eventually, I will be running a marathon. Yeah, but I know that if I don't know where I am, I won't be able to take that first step. So it's very important to be able to assess ourselves and trust our strengths to accomplish anything we'd like.
Sure. And, to be frank, if you had somebody's beer goggles on, you could have done that marathon. You just, you're blind to you don't let facts get in the way of a good day.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Now, what about as part of your after visit summary? Sometimes there's prescriptions that the doctor has for you. Are there any other little sub areas that you think are good prescriptions, self prescriptions that people can take away, or tools or
Sure.
processes they should embrace?
Yeah, I think it's always good to check with your local community, church or city. There's always plenty of nonprofits that are really trying to make the places where we live better. And it is good to participate with them, whether we want to do it with our family, with our coworkers, with our team, or just ourselves. You'll be surprised what you'll find about yourself when you put yourself out there and assess yourself. I've done multiple assessments through the years, but there's a few of them out there. There's a variety. I think it's money well spent. I cannot really tell you to pick one specific, but there's quite a few. I think it's a much needed tool to have yourself be assessed and those around you. I think that's definitely so that we don't use the same thing, or we don't have the same approach as we did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We evolve. So
yeah, just like we were talking about with Sun Tzu, know thyself was first on the list. You've got to know where you are, have a snapshot of a moment in time of who you are, what you're doing, how you work, where you need to grow, all of those kinds of things. So
right.
I see that. And I also completely agree about nonprofits. On the podcast before, I mentioned that I coach Special Olympics basketball for adults.
Wonderful.
I've been a fan of a lot of the local food banks, sometimes donating money. When I haven't had the money, I've been able to donate time. And
yes.
There's no greater joy than being able to feel like you're helping people get food to the table who really need it. It doesn't matter how bad things are for you. So there's something about helping others who have it a little bit worse that kind of puts everything in perspective a little bit more.
Exactly.
Now, Jose, how can people reach you if they want to get a hold of you and learn a little bit more?
Yeah, I think with LinkedIn, definitely something I use almost daily, and obviously email or a phone call. Sometimes I'm in multiple meetings, calls, but I have opportunity to check with messages latter part of the day, and definitely would love to connect. Anything that would help with an organization, just with Lone Star Dad, I think is where we got connected, and I got to share important information with someone else that was going to help them. So happy to do so, and just reach out. And I'll have my Facebook thread as well.
Yeah, that's actually been kind of a fun little group, Lone Star Dads. I came across them on Facebook and actually play basketball with some of the guys here, probably
Awesome.
later tonight at 6:00 here in Keller. But it's
great.
kind of a neat little community that gets together and, just something a little bit special for dads. Not that men or women have more or less ways to connect, but sometimes dad, it's kind of opportunistic. You got 10 minutes. What can I do?
Yes.
For myself, I'm the doctor, so you can always reach me via email, the doctor spelled out at fulcrumgroup.net. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. Just mention that you met me through my podcast because I typically don't connect with anyone that I haven't met face to face. I'm a cybersecurity guy, so I'm that way. But if you mention that you talked to me on the podcast, I'll be happy to link up with you. And wow, great day today, Jose. That wraps up another episode of Talk to the Doc. And for me, here's my takeaway after our conversation today. Great customer service. It's not rocket science, but it can feel like emergency surgery if you're not practical about it, doing it regularly, and being insightful, looking at yourself. We all want to treat our clients, the way that we want to be treated, and kind of fix things when they need help, or plan ahead to prevent things from happening. So
right.
Hopefully we all can do our part to making not just our own selves better, but as we consume products from everybody else, give people feedback. Everybody loves and needs feedback, because that's the only way that they get better, especially if we tend to only quit after one incident. That means a lot of organizations may not even know they're doing a bad job or need help.
Right.
So thanks for tuning in. And remember, whether it's technology or tacos, good service keeps folks coming back. I'm Steve, the Dr. Meek, and I'm reminding you that the doctor is always in, but for now, I'm about to check out. So check me out on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, I'm your host, Steve the Dr. Meek, and the doctor is out. See you next time. Thanks so much.